Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Naturally Sim. It has been so long since I have posted a video. Too long. And so much has happened since I last posted, good and bad, but 2019 we're gonna focus on the good, okay? Let me just put it out there, let me make a quick disclaimer. No, I did not relax my hair. This, my friends, is a silk press. So I can revert back to my curls when I choose to. I know last video, or one of my last videos, consisted of me ranting about my natural hair and considering relaxing it or texturizing it, but I've since gotten past that phase and I've started exploring things such as silk pressing, and let me just say I suck at doing them myself, but I have found such a great hairdresser in the Greater Toronto area. She is so good at what she does. She doesn't just specialize with natural hair, she does protective styling, she makes wigs, she does it all, and she is bomb, and that's what I've been doing. That aside, the real reason why I'm here and what it says in my title is that I have undergone a very, very huge lifestyle change. I have decided to go pescatarian. It has been a month since I first started my pescatarian journey, and I just wanted to share my experiences with you guys. A lot of my friends and family have been asking me questions as to why I decided to make that transition, and I figured, why not just put it in a video? So here I am today, and I'm going to discuss my experience within the first month of transitioning to a pescatarian diet, and of course I'm gonna come back with more updates. I plan on doing a 3-month update, I plan on doing a 6-month update, and God willing, I plan on doing a year update. So with that said, let's get right into it. So the biggest question that I get is, why? For me, there were many reasons as to why I decided to make this transition, and to be quite transparent with you guys, this isn't my first attempt at the diet. I did try last year in 2018. The longest period of time that I was able to go previously on this diet was about a week and a half to 2 weeks max. So this is my third attempt, and what I know and what I can feel already is that I have the determination and I have the mindset that this is how it's going to be, this is my lifestyle from here on in, and I've been willing to commit to it thus far. Whereas previously it was more of just a trial run and I wasn't as committed. I didn't do certain things that I'm doing this time, which I'll discuss more later. But why? I was having a lot of issues with my digestion. I found that when I ate meat, I felt heavier, I felt bloated, I just didn't feel comfortable. I never had that settled feeling, and I just felt like it was just too much for me to handle. And in addition to that, I was low on energy, which ties into my first point. I was feeling sluggish, I was feeling heavy, especially when I would have a big lunch that consisted of meat, say during the day at work. I'd find that the second half of my workday would be very difficult. I would have to push myself to get through it. Another major reason why I decided to make this transition is because I was having a lot of skin problems. I was breaking out more often, and I started to really pay attention to the correlations of what I was eating and how my skin would react. And to be very honest with you, the more meat I would eat, just the more meat I would put into my diet more consistently, the worse my skin would be. So I wanted to try and cut down on the meat and increase my intake of vegetables and see if it impacted my skin. And lastly, my reasoning for transitioning to a pescatarian diet is just preference. I started hearing more and more about what goes into meats, like the artificial hormones, the treatment of the animals prior to their slaughter. I started doing more reading, I started watching more documentaries. I'm sure a big one most of you guys have heard of is What the Health. It was previously on Netflix. That really led me to really making that decision on doing it and putting my all into it. So another question that I get asked is, how? how did I make the transition? So I know a lot of people try to wean themselves off of meat slowly, and this is what I did previously in my last 2 attempts. But to me, that makes it more difficult. You have a little bit of meat in your diet, so you still have that taste for it, which kind of pushes you to consume more than you should. So this time around, instead of gradually cutting it out, I just stopped cold turkey. And to me, that's the best way to do it. Just cut it out of your diet, find things that can replace it in terms of protein, iron. Just do that research and cut it out completely, and it's way easier in maintaining it. Another way I made this transition is for the first 2 weeks, the majority of my diet, and this was intentional, consisted of a lot of seafood. So as you know, with the pescatarian diet, it's like a vegetarian diet with the exception that you can actually consume seafood. So to ease that transition of cutting out meat altogether, I supplemented it with a lot of seafoods, salmons, tuna, shrimp, stuff like that. And that kind of eased the transition, in my opinion. And then afterwards, I increased my vegetable intake, kind of minimized my seafood intake, which I just wanted to get my body accustomed to having more vegetables, and this worked for me perfectly fine. So my suggestion is do whatever you think would work for you, but that is kind of how I strategize. And another tip, in my opinion, which eased the transition, is to prepare your foods in very similar ways that you would prepare ordinary foods. Just because you're cutting meat out of your diet doesn't mean that you have to cut taste out or sacrifice the quality of your food. That should not be the case at all. So if you're Caribbean like me and you're used to such things as curry chicken, jerk chicken, why not substitute it for curry chickpeas or jerk lentils? You have to play with the food and make it taste good in order to have it be enjoyable and to ease your transition. And my last point as to how I've been successful thus far and how I haven't really had any issues thus far is to be consistent. Like I mentioned earlier, you have to think ahead when you're making a diet change, and in my case, I started meal planning more often. I never really used to do it before. But if you have a structured plan, if you already have your meals prepared and it's easier for you throughout the work week, you're more likely to stick to the diet, and you're more likely to be consistent, and it's more likely to be enjoyable for you. So of course, all that glitters is never gold. We have pros and we have cons to everything that we do in life. So here are my pros. Thus far, and with that said, again, I want to reiterate, it's only been a month, so this could certainly change. I definitely have already noticed a change in my skin. I have not been breaking out as frequently as I used to when I was consuming meat. I find that my skin has already begun clearing up. The scarring is starting to subside. So that's been my observation, and it's only been a month. I'm definitely also noticing that I do have more energy. I feel lighter on my feet. I feel not full to the point where I feel sick after eating, but I feel satisfied. Another pro is that with this diet change, I've had a new motivation for an overall healthier lifestyle, so starting to be more active. I've cut out other things that may not be tied to meat. For instance, I've limited my consumption of coffee. I don't have coffee every morning anymore. Once you change what you eat and you change your lifestyle and you really plan for it, it seems that everything else follows suit, and that's been my experience thus far. Another con is that I've been more conscious about my food consumption, so even if I don't prepare it myself, I'm more likely to look at the ingredients because of course I want to avoid accidentally eating meat products. I'm looking at the content of my food, what vitamins and minerals are in it. So overall, it's made me more aware of what I'm putting in my body. Another pro is that I'm definitely saving money on food, which is huge because I have to make one grocery haul, prepare my food for the week, and I have all of that ready. I'm less inclined to spend additional money on food, so I can really budget out my spending on grocery bills. You can't go wrong with that. And my last pro thus far is that I've rediscovered my passion for cooking, because you get to try new things, you get to be creative. Like I said, you get to put a spin on foods that you may not have necessarily eaten before, and you try and make them suit your taste. It's like a challenge, and every week when I'm meal planning, it's a fun chance to create special dishes and put together certain combinations. And now, here are my cons. So I'm human, I'm not perfect. Yes, it's been relatively easy for me to make the transition, but I still have my cravings. The other day, I dreamt about boneless wings. It's like I could have almost tasted them, but I didn't cave in. Secondly, and this could also really depend person to person, I'm prone to headaches, so I wasn't really surprised, especially if there are changes to my diet. So I did have quite a few headaches and migraines at first, I won't even lie. For the first, I would say the first week, I had maybe like 3-4 headaches, which is a lot. But I think that was just my body's way of readjusting and getting used to this new diet, and I think it was normal for me. So it may not happen to you, but that was definitely an inconvenience and a con for me. Another con thus far, when you're out and about, your food options can be limited. Not every restaurant offers vegetarian and pescatarian options. So when you're planning your outings with your friends or coworkers, whatnot, you really have to be more critical of their menu. You have to plan ahead, which goes into what I mentioned previously. It all ties in together. But if you're someone who wants to be able to eat wherever, or you don't have the luxury of vegetarian and pescatarian restaurants, this may pose a huge problem to you, especially if you don't enjoy cooking and meal planning. So that's something to definitely think about. And lastly, clashes with loved ones. So if you live in a household where the other people that you live with consume meat, a lot of meat, it gets a little challenging, because sometimes you have to cook more frequently than you normally would, because you're having to cook your own meals. And for some people, you have to cook your own meals in addition to the meals for other people. You just can't all eat the same thing, and that goes into my previous point of selecting restaurants, stuff like that. Your tastes may not align with your loved one's tastes anymore, and to be honest, for some people that might be something that's really difficult to manage. But for me, although it was a minor inconvenience, it doesn't really deter me, because like I said previously, I enjoy cooking, so not an issue all the time. Sometimes, but not all the time. This goes to show you guys that this transition doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be tasteless. It doesn't have to be boring. Just put some imagination into it, do your research, know what you need for your body to thrive, and you can get it. You have to plan it out. Just be strategic. That's it. So guys, with that said, that concludes my first update video on my pescatarian journey. I think I've touched on everything that I've wanted to discuss thus far. So let me know if you have any questions for me, if you too have made a similar transition, and if you have some recipe suggestions, please leave them, because like I mentioned, I love cooking and I'm down to try anything that sounds good. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are all well, and I hope to see you in my next video. Stay gorgeous. Bye guys.